Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new explainer. I am so incredibly pumped to have you all here today because we're kicking things off with a massive, mind-bending linguistic time travel mystery. We're going to journey thousands of years into the past, decode some ancient alphabets, and then travel right into the scorching, beautiful deserts of the ancient Middle East. We're going to witness one of the most epic moving days in human history by diving deep into the book of Genesis, specifically chapter 36. So buckle up and let's jump right into the time portal.
So, I've got a huge question for you. Think about some of the most famous names in ancient history. Names like Jacob, Joseph, Judah. They all start with the letter J, right? Well, here's a crazy secret. The ancient language they originally spoke, it didn't even have the letter J. Literally no J sound in their entire alphabet. So, how in the world did Jacob get a J in his name? Let's solve this mystery.
You see, in ancient Hebrew, instead of a J, they used a letter called Yod, which makes a Y sound. That means a guy we know as Jacob was originally called Yaakov. Joseph was actually Yosef, and Judah, Yehuda. It sounds totally different, doesn't it? But if their names started with a Y sound, how did they eventually transform into the hard J sound that we use in English today? Well, it's basically a giant game of historical telephone. It all starts in ancient Hebrew with the yod, making that Y sound. Then those texts were translated into Greek and eventually into Latin. Now in Latin, they used the letter I, but sometimes they'd give it this cool little decorative hook at the bottom when it was acting like a consonant Y. That fancy decorative I was literally the very first J. But it still sounded like a Y. It wasn't until way later, around the 16th and 17th centuries when the English language was developing, that the pronunciation finally shifted. The soft Y morphed into the strong, hard J, or J, sound we use today. So Yaakov journeyed through centuries of translations to finally become Jacob. Okay, now that we've solved how Jacob got his name, we really need to talk about his twin brother, Esau. In ancient texts, when they list someone's family history, it's called the genealogy. Think of it as a massive family tree adventure, showing how one small family can multiply and grow into a giant, sprawling nation. And let me tell you, Esau's family tree, it's about to grow incredibly fast.
Section 1. Esau's Epic Giant Move, exploring Genesis chapter 36.
We are traveling right back to the ancient land of Canaan to witness one of the most chaotic moving days in all of history. I mean, imagine packing up your house today. It's a chore, right? Well, wait until you hear what Esau, who was also known as Edom, had to pack. First, he had to gather his wives, Adah, Oholivamah, and Basmat, then his 5 sons, Elifaz, Reuel, Jeush, Jaalam, and Korach, plus all his daughters. Then he had to pack up every single tent, tool, and possession they owned. And the absolute hardest part? Rounding up massive, endless herds of cattle and livestock. This wasn't just a family moving. This was practically an entire city picking up and marching straight across the desert. But why did they have to move in the first place? Well, Genesis 36:7 actually tells us, for their possessions had become too great for them to live together, and the countryside through which they were traveling couldn't support so much livestock. And honestly, this brilliantly shows just how incredibly wealthy Esau had become. Both he and his brother Jacob were so blessed and had so much wealth and so many animals that the land literally wasn't big enough for the both of them. Esau just had to find a new frontier. So the crucial takeaway here is that Esau traveled far away to a place called the hill country of Seir. He settled down, and because Esau's other name was Edom, this entire region eventually became known as the land of Edom. And Esau's family didn't just survive out there in the hills, they absolutely thrived. They multiplied, built settlements, and this giant family rapidly turned into a booming, powerful new nation on the world stage. Section 2. The Kings of Edom, Rulers of the Ancient World. Hold on to your hats because Esau's family tree is about to get royal. They weren't just wandering the desert anymore. They were establishing borders, building glittering palaces, and creating a formidable earthly kingdom. In fact, Genesis 36 gives us this amazing historical fact. 8 powerful kings reigned in the land of Edom, long before any king reigned over the people of Israel. We're talking about kings with names like Bela, Yovav, Husham, and Hadad, who famously defeated Midian in the field of Moab. Esau's descendants gained massive earthly power, built mighty cities like Dinhavah and Bozrah, and organized a royal succession incredibly fast. And it wasn't just kings either. The kingdom was so vast, it had to be organized into clans ruled by mighty chieftains, or dukes. We're talking incredibly powerful leaders like Lotan, Shoval, Zivan, Anah, Dishon, Etzer, and Dishon. These specific chieftains descended from the local inhabitants, the Horites, and they intermingled with Esau's descendants. Esau's line also produced their own famous chieftains, guys like Teman, Omar, and Amalek. All of this just proves exactly how huge, structured, and incredibly successful Esau's earthly kingdom was. They were an absolute powerhouse in the ancient Middle East.
Section 3. The ultimate forever treasure, the secret lesson. Now, as we wrap up our explainer today, we really have to look past the cattle, the palaces, and all those kings to uncover the most important hidden treasure in this whole story. What is the real moral of Genesis 36? Well, it shows us that Esau prospered incredibly quickly in earthly terms. He built a mighty nation, gained power, and had all the gold you could ever want. And that proves God is faithful, blessing even those outside the main covenant. But here's the catch. While Esau got rich quickly, his family line lacked the eternal spiritual inheritance that belonged to his brother, Jacob. The big takeaway here is that while material riches and earthly success are nice, a true spiritual legacy, obedience, and a good heart are far more valuable than all the gold, palaces, and kingdoms in Edom. That is the forever treasure.
I really hope you loved unraveling the mystery of the time-traveling Jay and exploring the epic desert kingdom of Edom with me today. But it definitely leaves us with one massive, provocative question to ask ourselves. If you had to choose today, would you rather have the temporary gold of an earthly king or the forever treasure of a spiritual legacy? Think about it. Click the bell button, like, share, and subscribe.